In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve polynomials by factoring. So these are the steps that we are going to follow. We need to move all terms to one side and set the equation equal to 0. Then you will need to factor the polynomial completely. This might involve multiple methods of factoring, but it needs to be factored completely. Then you will set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. If you have a quadratic equation, you can solve it by square roots, completing the square, or the quadratic formula. I will be using the quadratic formula in this video, but just know you can use square roots and completing the square. You might also run into some complex solutions and irrational solutions, so dealing with imaginary numbers. Those solutions need to be simplified completely as well. So let's get started. Our first example is x cubed plus x. Whenever you factor, always look for a greatest common factor first. We can factor out an x, which leaves us x squared plus 1. Okay, so then I'm going to set each factor equal to 0, so x equals 0, and then x squared plus 1 equals 0. So x equals 0 is already solved. Now I need to solve for x in the second equation. So if I subtract 1, I will get x squared is equal to negative 1, and then take the square root. So x is equal to the square root of negative 1. Anytime you take a square root, just know you need to put a plus or minus, and then the square root of negative 1 is actually the imaginary number I. So that is our solution. We have 3 solutions, plus or minus I, and then 0. Looking at number 2, we need to move all terms to one side of the equation, so I'm going to subtract 3x squared. So I get 4x cubed minus 10x squared is equal to 0. Again, see if you can factor out a greatest common factor. In this case, I can factor out 2x squared, which leaves me 2x minus 5. Okay, so set each factor equal to 0. I'm going to move over here. So 2x squared is equal to 0, and then 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. So with this first one, we are going to divide by 2, so x squared is equal to 0. Take the square root. The square root of 0 is just 0, so we have x equals 0 here. Technically, this has a multiplicity of 2, okay, because it happens twice. For 2x minus 5, add 5 to both sides, you get 2x is equal to 5, and then divide by 2, you get x is equal to 5 over 2. This is your other solution. Let's keep going with some more complex factoring. So we have 5x to the 5th minus 80x. So again, you can factor out a greatest common factor of 5x here, which would give you x to the 4th minus 16 is equal to 0. Set each, or we're not done factoring completely actually. So this x to the 4th minus 16, that is a perfect square. Or I'm sorry, a difference of squares. So it can be x squared plus 4 and x squared minus 4. Still not done factoring completely. This x squared minus 4 can be broken down even further. So x squared plus 4, x plus 2, and x minus 2. Okay, so now this is as factored as it goes. Set each factor equal to 0. So 5x equals 0, x squared plus 4 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. So 5x is equal to 0, divide by 5. 0 divided by 5 is still 0. X squared plus 4 is equal to 0. Subtract 4, you get x squared is equal to negative 4. Take the square root. You will get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 4, which is plus or minus I, and then the square root of 4 is actually 2, so we will get plus or minus 2I. Let me move that one down. Okay, x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, you will get x equals negative 2. And then on x minus 2, just add 2 to both sides and you will get x equals positive 2. So you have 5 zeros here. You have x equals 0, plus 2i, minus 2i, negative 2, and positive 2. Let's look at number 4 here. This one might get a little complicated. So first thing we need to do is we need to set this equation equal to 0. So subtract 54 from both sides. 16x cubed minus 54 is equal to 0. You can factor out a greatest common factor of 2. That will leave you with 8x cubed minus 27 is equal to 0. Now 8x cubed minus 27, that is a difference of cubes. So it can be rewritten as 2x cubed minus 3 cubed. So you plug it into your formula for difference of cubes, which is a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. So here we're going to have 2x minus 3. So a squared, 2x squared would be 4x squared, plus 2x times 3 would be 6x, plus b squared, so 3 squared is 9. And whenever you're doing difference of cubes, this part of the cubic, it probably cannot be factored anymore, okay? So we set each factor equal to 0, so we're going to set 2 equal to 0, 2x minus 3 equal to 0, and then 4x squared plus 6x plus 9 equal to 0. Well, 2 does not equal 0. That is not really a relevant factor, so we will move on. So 2x minus 3, add 3 to both sides, and then divide by 2. X is equal to 3 over 2. So that's one factor. And then for this trinomial here, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So a is equal to 4, b is 6, c is 9. So quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So if you simplify this all out, you will get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 108 all over 8. So we need to simplify this. Well, the square root of negative 108. So the negative comes out as an I, and then we can break down the square root of 108 into its lowest factors. So that will give us 6 and 18, and then this can be 6 and 3. Well, I already have a pair there, and so the 3 is going to stay inside. So I will get negative 6 plus or minus 6i square root of 3 all over 8. This can actually be reduced by 2. So 6 reduced by 2 is 3, 3, and then 4. So my final solution here, let me make some room, is x equals negative 3 plus or minus 3i square root of 3 all over 4. Okay, so kind of a complicated solution, but I got it using the quadratic formula. All right, number 5. This is a 4-term polynomial, so I'm going to try factoring by grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2 together and then group the second 2, and then just make sure that there's a plus sign in between them. I'm going to factor out an x squared from the first group, which will give me 2x minus 3, plus, and then from the second group, I can actually factor out a negative 16, and that will give me 2x minus 3. So my factored form is 2x minus 3, and then x squared minus 16. Okay, this can be factored even more. 2x minus 3. X squared minus 16 is a perfect square. So I have x plus 4 and x minus 4. Now I set each factor equal to 0. So 2x minus 3 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. And x minus 4 equals 0. So 2x minus 3, add 3 to both sides, and then divide by 2. You will get x is equal to 3 over 2. So that's your first factor. X plus 4, subtract 4 from both sides. You will get x is equal to negative 4. And then x minus 4, add 4 to both sides. You will get x equals 4. And those are your three solutions.